Well, hello, everybody. We are live cooking from our kitchen. All right, Nikki's giving me some signs here.
Thumbs up if they can hear you.
Yes, give us thumbs up if you can hear us. That would be great. We are testing this. Never done this before on YouTube. So we're going to give it a shot. If you're on the other side, just give us thumbs up that everything is good, that you can see us, you can hear us, and then we can get started. All right. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, I'll get Nikki to come over here. She will be the one monitoring all the comments. If you want to leave any comments when I'm cooking, I'm usually not paying attention to that kind of stuff. So she will make it nice and interactive for us. And I didn't want to get too many things ready and prepared just because I don't want us to do this live. So if there's anybody on the other side that is actually cooking with us, that's great. And if not, just watch the show. I'll try to make it pretty entertaining today. I'm already hearing my oil here, so I'm going to turn this down for a moment before we get right into it. All right, so welcome again. Today we are making a pretty awesome recipe. What I love about this recipe is that it includes all kinds of beautiful plant-based, it features all kinds of beautiful plant-based ingredients. We are going to have lots of greens. We are going to have beans and lentils for the protein. We're going to even include some noodles, some healthy noodles, and just a very few spices. So I find that what is this recipe, by the way? It's a herb, bean, and lentil soup. And I find that this is a recipe that pretty much anybody can make. Most of the ingredients you probably already have at home, so you don't have to go, on a hunt to find these ingredients. And a lot of these ingredients could also be substituted. So we'll be talking about it just in a little while. But let's begin. If you're cooking with me, make sure that you're preheating your one pot with because that's a one pot meal, right? We're making today. Everything will be done in one pot, so less dishes. And I just put some coconut oil in the pot to heat it up. And I already pre-sliced my onion. And the reason why I did it is because I tend to cry quite a bit when I'm slicing onion. So I didn't want to, get all messy on the camera, obviously. So you can slice your onion right now. And I'm going to give you a little tip. I use mandala for it because I want the onion to be nice and thin. Okay, so this is can show you how thin the slices are. And I'm just going to put it right in the pot. So I already preheated the oil and I'm just going to put it right in there. Woo, sizzling. So you can see that it's quite a bit of onion. It's a one large onion. And you can use whatever onion you either have on hand or whatever onion you like. Sometimes I like to use sweet onion because it gives it a little bit different flavor. But this time I'm just using a nice farmer's market yellow onion. And I'm gonna put it in a pot. This is really probably the most time-consuming part of this recipe and probably the most important one. And the reason for that is that we want the onion to caramelize. And it takes some time. So we'll leave it for about 10-15 minutes. And meanwhile, we can be preparing all the other parts of this recipe. I'm just going to turn this up. And to be honest with you, this is the first time that we are using this burner. What do you call it, Nikki? What kind of burner is this?
Induction?
No, it's not induction. No. So it's this, this portable burner. So we figured it would be probably easier for everybody to see what we are doing rather than me cooking at the stove, which is behind me. So just be patient with me if it takes me a little while to figure out how to properly use it. It's a new kitchen tool that we have here. All right, so the onion is caramelizing. You want to keep an eye on it. So once in a while, just give it a little stir. And I'm keeping the heat quite high, but I want to keep an eye on it because I don't want it to burn. And meanwhile, I'm going to prepare my garlic. So I have 3 cloves of garlic, and I'm just going to mince the garlic here. And it is a herb soup, right? So we'll be using a lot of herbs, and actually garlic is one of those herbs that we are using. And I am grating the garlic because I find that that's one of the easiest ways to get it nice and fine, but you could also chop the garlic. You can use a garlic press for this. Like with any recipes, I always suggest, it is my humble opinion, that if you can start with good quality ingredients, you're going to end up with a really delicious final product. So go for high quality. And what I mean by that is if you have the luxury to buy organic, then by all means do so. If you have the ability to be buying your ingredients at your local farmers market, again, by all means do so. And if not, then just find maybe a co-op store in your area. They tend to carry quite a good quality ingredients as well. All right. So nice fresh garlic. I'm just going to put it aside here. And I'm going to check on my onion here. Beautiful. I will try to keep you updated on how the onion is doing, and maybe I will even show you later on what you're looking for. But caramelizing the onion sometimes takes a little bit of time and patience. And if you don't have the time for it, that's perfectly fine. Don't really stress it. But if you have the time, then I definitely suggest that you are patient with this part, because as the onion is caramelizing, you can already be preparing the other parts. And the next thing that we'll be putting into the soup will be our beans and lentils. And I really don't need to do anything with those anymore, just because I pre-cooked them. So I like to cook my own lentils, my own beans, but I understand that not everybody has the luxury to do so. If you live a pretty busy life, and pre-soaking your beans and cooking them, it could be several hour process, right? So if you need to buy stuff that is canned, then that's fine. Just make sure that you can buy, again, good quality ingredients, so organic preferably. Check the can to make sure it's BPA free. And when you are straining your beans, run them through nice cold water, because you're going to get rid of a lot of the extra salt, the sodium that is in the can. All right. If you're cooking your own beans and lentils, then I suggest that you pre-soak them, because it's much easier for you to digest these beautiful plant-based proteins. Right. I'm just going to put it aside that I don't need to do anything with this. But now the big job is going to be to cut all our beautiful herbs. Turn this down so it can do its thing. And I just want to show you this bowl of greens that I have prepared here. Wow. Okay. We have lots here. So I'm going to talk about the different parts that we'll be using. So first one is leek. Is it essential to use it? No, you can definitely replace it with something like green onions. Would work well. I do like leek. It's part of, I think, my background, my culture. In Eastern Europe, we use leek a lot, much more than green onions. So I always try to get it at the farmer's market when it's in season. And right now it is in season. The one thing about leek is that it collects a lot of dirt. So you want to always make sure that you wash it quite well. Okay, so, and we are using today only the yellow, sorry, not the yellow, but the white parts. And I don't throw away the rest of it. I actually clean it and put it aside and use it for broth. So you don't have to get rid of it. It's not necessarily edible, just because it's quite, fibrous, I guess. But it still has quite a bit of nutrition, and it also has lots of flavor. So make sure that you save it and use it for broth. I'm just going to roughly chop this leek. And one thing I didn't get prepared and ready is extra bowl. We will be definitely needing it just because we will be cutting lots of herbs. So I'll get Nikki to come on the camera to say, "Hi, Nikki." There she is. I promise she's here. She's not like imaginary friend that I have in the kitchen with me. Okay, so putting it aside. Okay, how are our onions doing? Oh yeah. Ooh. Beauty. So that's leek. Now we have other greens here. So let's start with some dill. And I want you to be quite experimental, would you say, like experimental in the kitchen. So whatever, the herbs that I'm suggesting to use, it's again, just a suggestion. You could use whatever herbs that you either have on hand or you have in your garden and where it's available in the store near you. The combination of herbs that I'm using is simply things that we had in our fridge. So you will find that on the recipe, there's going to be maybe a little bit of a different combo. I just went through the fridge and I found all kinds of greens that needed to be used up. And I figured, why not put it in the soup? And so I'm roughly chopping them. And I am using the stems as well because they will get cooked up. So let's talk about dill. All herbs have medicinal properties. And dill, for example, is amazing for the digestive system. So if you're having a hard time digesting food, you're suffering with maybe a little bit of gas and digestion, sprinkling some dill on your salad is always a good idea. So that's our dill. I'll put it aside here. And we often think of herbs, as just adding flavor to our meal, but a lot of them, and majority of them, are very much medicinal. And now we have parsley, and for this recipe, you can use flat deep parsley, you can use curly parsley, whatever you have. You can use a combination of both. They're both, again, very beneficial for our health and well-being. Parsley is full of vitamins and minerals. So obviously an important part of our health. So rather than getting a pill form of your daily vitamins and minerals, include some parsley. There. And parsley is also very good for our immune system. So this time of the year when the weather is changing and people are coming down with all kinds of different colds and flus, parsley could really help us build the immune system. And one more big benefit of parsley is for any women who are suffering like with menstrual cramps. That's also a really good herb to include in their diet. And you could use parsley fresh. You could juice parsley. I really like juicing parsley. You don't need much of it because it's quite flavorful. So when you're juicing it, you can just use like a handful of it and it will add a really nice flavor to your juices. And your vitamins. There's one big benefit of parsley, and it has vitamin K. Vitamin K helps to strengthen our bones. So if you want strong bones, make sure you eat parsley. I have a little bit more dill here. That's it. And I'm going to check on my onions because I feel like it's time to add the garlic. Oh yeah. All right, so I used about 2 tablespoons of coconut oil to start the process of cooking here. And if you find that you need a little bit more, you could use more, but you could also use some broth or even water. I'm just gonna add it in. Okay, and I will see if I can show you what we are looking for. So the onions are kind of starting to brown, and you smell the little bit of sweetness coming from it. And the next thing that I want to add in is going to be garlic. So I prepared garlic, add it in. Beautiful. And we'll just let it simmer, maybe add a little bit of water if you need again, or a touch of oil. If you're not afraid of oil. If you're cooking with oil, it's good to use, there's 3 types of oil that I would recommend for cooking, especially when you're exposing it to a little bit of heat. And that's good quality coconut oil. You can also use avocado oil or grapeseed oil. Those are really good oils for cooking because if you expose them to a higher temperature, they are not going to go rancid on you. Okay, so those are 3 oils that are good. Something like extra virgin extra virgin olive oil is amazing to add to your salads or salad dressings, but not necessarily for this type of cooking. Okay, the next thing that I have here is watercress. Again, that was not really on the ingredient list, but I did have it in the fridge, so I decided to use it. If you've never cooked with watercress, you're missing out. Try to find it at your local farmer's market. It's a wonderful, wonderful herb. Again, still just like the other herbs like parsley, very rich in vitamins and minerals, especially vitamin C. And they say that watercress helps with a detoxification of the liver as well as the kidneys. So really good to get the lymphatic system moving. And I also have a little bit, not much, but just a handful of dandelion. Same idea. A lot of detoxification benefits here. So you don't want to add too much dandelion because the dandelion is quite bitter, but good enough here. All right, so I think we're good. And our next step will be adding the beans and some spices. So I'm going to start with my pinto beans. Actually, I think they're pinto. They're pinto. I cooked them last week and I had them in the freezer. And then I'm using some green lentils, and they're both organic type. Organic beans and lentils. I'm gonna mix it in. How are we doing for time, Nikki?
420.
420. All right. So I told you this is going to be the most time-consuming part. Now everything else is going to come together really quickly. There's only a couple different spices in this soup, and honestly, it doesn't need too much just because the herbs are going to add a beautiful flavor to this dish. So I'm adding some turmeric. There, and I'm going to add good quality salt. So this is unrefined sea salt. Add it in. And now I'm gonna add the rest of the broth, and you could use, obviously store-bought broth is fine if you don't have your homemade one. And also water would work here. I do like to make my own broth because I know what goes into it. Plus, when you're doing quite a bit of cooking with vegetables, you often end up with bits and pieces that you're maybe not putting into your cooking or into your salads, but it's still good stuff, right? So what we basically do is we put everything in a bag or in a container. Those leftover pieces, like I had, like parts of the herbs that I was not using, but sometimes even when we are making squash and you end up with the seeds on the inside of the squash or the ends of your mushrooms, just start storing it. And once a week we use a big pot just behind me there, sitting on the stove, and we add everything in with filtered water, some good quality salt, and we just cook that, and it ends up making like 2-3 jars of a really nice broth, and then you can use it throughout the week. If you don't want to cook with oil, you can use always the broth as the base for for your cooking. So if you're frying onions, you can use broth instead of oil, or you can use less oil and add some broth in there. So finally, this is the final part of our greens here, is spinach. This is some big spinach leaves, but those are from the farmer's market, and they're so flavorful. So spinach is very rich in iron. All green vegetables are really nice, rich in iron, and it has a lot of chlorophyll and a lot of amino acids. Often people ask, as a plant-based eater, is where you're getting your protein from, and you can honestly say to people that if you're eating a lot of green leafy vegetables, there's tons of protein. The spinach has a lot of protein in it as well. All right, let's see how we're doing here. This won't require too much time, but we do want to bring it to boil. So I'm just going to increase the temperature here. All right. So I would say this is one of those meals that you could make when you want to clean up your fridge. If you have a lot of leftover greens, herbs in your fridge, just make this soup. Making some noise here. I'm just going to clean up. And our next step will be adding all the herbs into the soup. There we go. One of the reasons we decided to do this live, or really any future lives, is to show you guys how easy it could be to make a nutritious meal, nutritious plant-based meal. And you do not have to spend hours in the kitchen. What I love about cooking personally, I don't mind spending hours in the kitchen. I actually enjoy it quite a bit. But even with a meal like this, a very simple dish, what I love about it is to be in contact with the ingredients and really, smell it and touch it, and you are putting your energy into the food that you're making, right? So I always say, never cook when you're angry, never cook when you're upset. Put some positive energy into what you're doing. It goes like that with anything that you do in life. How you do anything is how do you everything. That's always what Nikki tells me. And it is a beautiful reminder is that, when you're cooking, maybe put some good music on and really get into it and think about the nutritional benefits that all these ingredients have. What is it going to do for me? That's another thing that I always think of Nikki, is that she asks, if there's a plate of food in front of her, what is it going to do for me? Because nothing is neutral in this life. It either adds benefit or it takes away, right? So asking yourself that. And obviously when you're preparing such a beautiful, healthy, fresh meal, there's a lot of good things going into it. So you might as well add a good positive energy. All right, friends, I think we are ready for the herbs. Wow, it's really, I wish that you could smell it, and hopefully if you're cooking along that your soup is already smelling amazingly as well. I'm going to add the herbs, but before I do it, I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit because all the lovely properties of this beautiful stuff here, it would be destroyed if we put it under a high heat. So you don't want it to be fully boiling. Just turn the heat down a little bit, and we are almost done the soup. So I'm going to add it in, and it might not all fit in. There. But once it cooks down a little, I will be able to add the rest. Very good. All right, and I will have to add a little bit of water because I have no more broth, but I do have some filtered water. And it would be ideal if your water is not cold because it will stop the cooking process. So a warm water or boiling water even. All right. And I am a messy cook. You can probably see it. I do create a lot of mess in the kitchen, but I feel like it's part of it. I don't mind cleaning up afterwards. Or usually Nikki is the one who kind of goes around and starts cleaning up as I'm cooking. But she already knows that I'm a messy cook, so it's all good. Okay, so I'm gonna let it cook just for a couple minutes, and meanwhile I'll tell you about the last ingredient, which is the noodles. They're not necessary to add if you don't have them at home. No worries. It is a part of the traditional recipe. So this herb soup is actually a Persian or Iranian soup called ash. We are not following it to the detail. There's parts of it that we are not including just because they are not fully plant-based, but it is an adaptation of this recipe. And the original recipe includes noodles, and they're typical like a Persian noodle. So we're not going to be using that because it includes wheat, and in our kitchen we are fully gluten-free. And I always feel like adding nutrition into my food is important. So why not use noodles that are actually very nutrient dense? And these noodles are made out of buckwheat. Okay? So they're also called soba noodles. You can buy them in most health food stores. You can also buy them in Asian food stores. Just make sure that you're reading the ingredients, because a lot of buckwheat noodles have very small amount of buckwheat flour and the rest is wheat flour. So reading the ingredients. So I have two different types here. They're, I believe, from the same company. But I have just a little bit left over here that is organic buckwheat flour 95% and organic sweet potato 5%. So it's buckwheat and sweet potato. Can't go wrong with that. And the second one is 100% buckwheat noodles. Yeah. If you are not able to find them, I'm sure that you will be able to find lentil noodles in your grocery store. So it's something like chickpea noodle could be really nice, or lentil noodles, just adding extra nutrition and extra protein into your food. And it's very simple how you do it. So obviously they are noodles, so they're going to be quite long. And for the enjoyment of eating it, it might be nice to break them down. So I'm just going to take the noodles and I'm going to break them in 3 pieces. And 1, 2, and the last piece, 3. So I'm going to break down in 2 pieces and creating 3, 2 places, creating 3 parts. And then I'm just going to mix it in. Yeah. All right. This is one of these recipes that you really don't have to measure everything. So if you wish to make the soup thicker or more satisfying, then you can definitely put more noodles. I'm going to ask Nikki if she would like more noodles in the soup or less noodles. How does she prefer the soup?
More noodles.
More noodles. We'll add a little bit more. Oh my gosh, friends, this is amazing. Like today in Vancouver, it's pouring rain. It's been raining since the morning, and it's actually feeling quite cold out there too. It almost feels like we're gonna get some snow soon. So today is a perfect time for a nice warming soup. Okay. So, more noodles. Remember that they will expand, so less is more sometimes. Okay. Beautiful. I'm just going to let it cook a little bit longer, maybe turn the heat up. Again, you don't want to overdo it, but you do want the noodles to stay in there until they are soft, which is usually 5 to 7 minutes, depending on what the package says. So this one is 5 to 6 minutes. And with that, it will kind of almost complete the meal. The last few parts are just optional. As everything really, I said, is really optional. But this last couple ingredients are definitely something that you could decide if you would like to add in. Maybe if you have it on hand, might be a nice addition. And so the one is lemon juice. And so once the soup is done cooking, turn the heat off completely and put some fresh lemon juice in. If you don't have lemon juice, lime juice will work as well. The reason for the lemon juice is obviously the flavor is going to be nice, but also because you have all these greens. So you have, the spinach, and we put some watercress in there, and the leek, and cilantro, and parsley, and dill, and all of them are really high in minerals and vitamins. And in order to get those out and for the body to absorb them, sometimes the lemon juice really helps with them, especially something like iron. If you're combining spinach and lemon, you're really ensuring that the absorption is going to be higher in the body. Okay, so that's one reason. So fresh lemon juice, but we don't want to heat the lemon juice because it will lose its strength and it will lose its flavor. So once it's all done cooking, that's when we will put the lemon juice in. And traditionally, the soup is served with almost like a kind of like a sour cream, but you could probably find a plant-based sour cream in your store somewhere, in a health food store. But we like to use our yogurt, our homemade yogurt. So this is the coconut yogurt that we make usually once a week. We make a nice jar of coconut yogurt, and all it is just coconut milk, and some type of nuts. So cashews work really well because they're nice and soft and creamy. So they will make the final product just absolutely amazing. It's almost like eating, if you ever enjoyed like a Greek type yogurt, that would be the consistency. But you could use other nuts as well. And if you don't have your own homemade coconut yogurt, then you can probably find one in the store. There's so many different companies these days coming up with really good quality products. The one thing that I'm going to suggest is that you look at the ingredients. Make sure that there is nothing that you cannot pronounce or you don't know what it is. Just like plant-based milks, any types of plant-based dairy often contains a lot of thickeners and stabilizers. So something like anything that ends with gum is probably something that you want to stay away. Okay, stay away from.
Less is more.
Less is more, exactly. Less ingredients is more. And what I love about making my own coconut yogurt or our own coconut yogurt is that we really know what's going in there, and it is only 3 ingredients. It's the coconut milk, some type of nuts, and a probiotic, a good quality probiotic. And if you want to learn how to make the coconut yogurt, we have it on our plant-based academy, so you can just follow along. It's we call it a master class, where we take you step by step on how to make it, because it is a few-day process. I'm talking a lot today. I am, but I'm trying to give you as much information as possible in order, for you to hopefully be encouraged and inspired to make healthy meals.
Confident in the kitchen.
To feel confident in the kitchen and have some fun. All right. So our soup is pretty much done. Did you, Nick, think about like serving the soup, or are we pretty good to maybe answer some questions and just
Well, you could
say
always put
goodbye.
it in a bowl. I put a
Yes.
bowl here if you want.
Mhm.
And if anybody has questions, they can ask.
Well, I personally would like to maybe let it
Oh,
cook for just
there
a little bit longer, if that's possible. And
Anything's
yes.
possible.
anything's possible. So at this point, this is really the recipe. That's all. That's all we have for you today, and we really appreciate you staying with us. And we are 36 minutes into this live, and what I find amazing is that in 36 minutes you can make an unbelievable, quick, really nutritious meal for you and your family. And something like this is a perfect option for you to use as a meal prep dish, because it will last in the fridge. So if you put it, I would say jars are best. So something like this, a mason jar. Once it cools, put it in a mason jar, put it in your fridge, and it will last for about 4, 5, even 6 days. You can easily freeze this soup as well. So that's an option. That way you're cooking once, but eating multiple times. And another thing is that the soup gets even better the next day. So the flavors of all the herbs, the herbs have oils, essential oils, and the oils get released with a little bit of time, and you will find that the next day the soup tastes even richer. So yeah, that's it. What else can I tell you about this? Did I forget anything, Nikki? Storage, freezer friendly. It's good to make it ahead. Let me see. We talked about utilizing different beans and lentils, so you don't have to stick with the ones that are in the ingredient list. You could also make this soup in a crock pot or a slow cooker if you really wish. I've never tried it, but I'm sure it will work well. I never tried it because we don't have one in the house. Fresh herbs. Use different herbs. Anything that you have on hand, anything that you have growing in your garden, anything that needs to be cleaned up from your kitchen because you're not, you're cooking with them. Even the herbs that don't look maybe the nicest anymore are still good for a soup like this. All right, and I think we're just gonna end right here, Nikki. I feel like it will need a couple more minutes here, but that's okay. We'll have a beautiful meal for tonight, and I hope that you will make the soup sometime soon. If there is any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you soon in the kitchen.